In today's show, it's a mailbag episode answering listener submitted questions about Joe Cronin, Tom Dundon, and Blake Hinson. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same as Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's program is a mailbag episode answering listener submitted questions all episode long. If you want to get involved in a future mailbag episode, email me, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. I don't always use them right away, so stick with me, but I do save them for a rainy day, and it is an incredibly rainy day here in Portland, both literally and also figuratively, because the Blazers play one game in the course of 6 days, so it's time for a little mailbag. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to answer questions about Joe Cronin, answer questions about Tom Dundon, answer questions about, yes, the third most powerful man for the Blazers, Blake Hinson. Everyone knows that's the trio. That's the three-headed monster that controls this franchise. Let's get into it. This first question comes from Andrew, although I got listener questions from many of you on a similar vein, including Eric B., who sent me a question, not of the Rakim fame. I believe this is just Eric B. of his own fame, but Andrew's question is what I'm going to read here. But many of you sent me similar questions, which helps sort of inform the show, so I appreciate it. Andrew asks, I realize this may be a moot point if new ownership changes the front office when they take over, but how confident should I be in the front office that they can actually make the right decisions and moves to take the Trailblazers further? Thank you, Andrew. Looking back at our previous email history, I would say, Andrew, not a believer in the Joe Cronin experience. Dating back to as early as 2023, the doubts were creeping in. And for listener Andrew, thank you for the question. So let's talk about this, because I think this is the first year that Cronin has sort of been judged against expectations. Things have kind of, they've changed over the years. When he first took over, he kind of took over mid-season, started this sort of stealth teardown, and everybody got hurt. The following year, they weren't very good, and it was kind of like they wanted to be good, but they weren't, blah, blah, blah. And then like some more moves kind of tear down and get worse and get cheaper. And then Dame leaves, and then you have 2 years where there's just like, there aren't expectations, right? The things have drastically changed. But I think this year, as opposed to kind of like, not knowing where you are, and not knowing if you're coming or going, this is the first year that they're sort of building to something. The expectations was a rise, right? Like a rise. Improving and meeting expectations is like, yeah, no funny business. There's no like looming Damian Lillard exit hanging over you, which certainly was the case during his second season. It was like, oh, what are they going to do with Dame? It's the first year he's dealt with expectations. And I think typically when anyone, players, coaches, executives, have expectations levied upon them, it changes how we talk about them and how fans feel about them. And we being like doofuses with microphones, you can buy yourself one. You can be a doofus if you want to be. Join the club. But like, it isn't so much that their decisions have already happened, but the way we value those decisions, the way we talk about those decisions changes a lot. And I think that's sort of an important caveat here, is that the way we talk about Cronin is going to change. Fair enough. It's part of the job. At some point, you have to add winning into the equation. When you add winning into the equation, people judge you based on whether the team wins or not. And I don't even want to talk about the Blazers necessarily this year, right? They've been so beat up that certainly they've struggled over the last few weeks. But like they've been beat up, and they're in position, if they were to get healthy, to kind of finish where you thought they might be, even if the last 20 days of basketball have not been particularly rewarding. But I think starting with like the good for Cronin is, I think he's done a pretty good job making trades. It's certainly been his best skill. The thing you can say he can point to and say, this is what I've been best at. The Denny trade looks like a huge home run. looks like a huge home run. It is. You traded for Denny on such a cheap contract. He's ascended this year to being an all-star caliber player. It kind of changes the lens of the whole franchise to being like building with Denny versus building around Denny. It feels like he's someone you can build around. You want to maximize his skills. You want to make decisions that help maximize Denny and with the ball in his hands and all these things. Like, he's taken a big step. Cronin kind of bet on that big step, and Denny, after a slow start to his Portland tenure, has just only been on the straight upward trajectory, and he's been great this year. No doubt about that. Awesome trade. And that was kind of the back end of the Damian Lillard trade, assets acquired from the Damian Lillard trade. So like making trades has been Cronin's best skill. Toumani Camara acquired in that Damian Lillard trade is like just a really useful piece. It's exactly the type of player you're looking for. I think Toumani has struggled a little bit with his shooting this year, although he's been a lot better lately after a very slow start. And like, that's the exact type of player you're looking for. I think, I don't love the Drew Holiday trade in practice. I think flipping Anthony Simons for Holiday when Holiday played, incredibly helpful, right? Like, he's made some nice moves. I didn't love all the teardown trades, like at the beginning of the Cronin era when he was making all these efforts to get the team cheaper and worse. Some of them were also just poorly presented. It was like publicly they were the sell on those trades was that they were actually winning moves, and that if you could just see the vision clear, you could realize that Keon Johnson was a winning move. It's like, nah, they were salary dumps. At some point, tell the truth. And yeah, it's a hard thing. It's easy for me to say, right? Because people don't really catch up with my mistakes the way they do with like public facing executives. Although plenty of you have pointed out mistakes I've made, and I appreciate it. So like, trading has been Cronin's best skill. The free agent contracts, albeit retaining his own free agents or signing folks off the market, have been a little sketchy. The Nurk deal was not a good deal. The Jeremy Grant contract is clearly not a good contract. At the time, I had no problem with the Anthony Simons contract, but it didn't age particularly well. Like, Ant just didn't live up to the billing, right? Like, it seems like at the time, like, yeah, he's got a chance to like have this be like the going rate and even lower, and it's like, and then he just by the end of the contract, it's like, that's too much money for Anthony Simons. He's making probably something like 25% more than he should. He should be making 19 million, makes 25. And then the Gary Payton the third, that's just excuse me, Gary Payton the second, that's the GP2. Like Gary Payton the second, this just that was bad. It was bad news. The Matisse Thybulle contract probably hasn't been very good. Matisse is good when he plays. He misses time. I don't think he would have made $11 million in the open market in another situation, considering what his overall skill set is. But he is useful when he plays, and perhaps he plays at the end of this year and is useful and is tradable and et cetera, et cetera. So Matisse with an asterisk. The other ones I think are like pretty obviously bad. I did like the Toumani Camara extension. I do like the Shaedon Sharpe extension. I think it has relatively small risk. Like, even if Sharpe isn't very good, you're getting him on a price that says like, yeah, you're a low-end starter, and if you can live up to that, awesome. And if you can't live up to that, the team's probably in trouble anyways. And if you outperform that, boy, are you cheap. Toumani got super paid for a great year, relative to what he is, to like, a sort of defensive specialist. It looked like it was, if he gets back to shooting really well, it's a very, having a good player at that price, and Toumani's impact on both ends, if he can just make jump shots, pretty good. Prior to that, it's like, I think the Nasir Little contract extension off his rookie deal that Cronin signed was maybe a little shaky in hindsight. At the time, it was like, dang, 4 years, $28 million for Nasir Little. And then he was like traded and waived and fell out of the league shortly thereafter. Like, he just like wasn't an NBA player. And he was still owed, $15 million on that contract. So I'd say that one didn't age particularly well. I think the contract he signed Damian Lillard to in 2021 or the spring of 2022 looks like not a great deal, considering he never played a single second on it and the Bucks chose to waive him. But like, yeah, I don't think Cronin. I think trades have been good, contracts have been bad, and then drafting. And this is like the sort of the three pillars of running a team. I think under Cronin, the Blazers have been average at best as a draft team. They've yet to truly nail a draft pick, right? Like, I think average based on their draft position is where I would probably put them, right? Like, I think Shaedon Sharpe is a pretty reasonable outcome for the 7th overall pick. He might be a dude who averages like 20 a game in the league for 5 to 10 years, 5 or 8 years. Like, That's a good outcome. Even if he's the sixth man, right? That's a really good outcome for a 7th overall pick. Klingon looks like a good outcome for a 7th overall pick. Just like with his limitations, but like a defensive anchor, playable every night rotation player, even at his age, and he certainly has a lot of things he could clean up. Scoot looks like a miss, but I think at the time that was what most people thought was going to happen, that Scoot was going to go 2 or 3. So like you don't get credit for following the consensus, but I don't think you get dinged as hard, even though like Amen Thompson is clearly way better than Scoot Henderson. But I'd say like based on where the Blazers have drafted, they've been about average. Chris Murray's like probably not an NBA player drafted at 23, but like the history of drafting dudes at 23, you're probably not going to find NBA players there. None of the second round picks have truly hit, to varying degrees, but Jabari Walker's probably an NBA rotation guy, but he's not on the team, so I don't think that really counts. So that brings us to the 24 games of the Young Hinson experiments as we judge Joe Cronin here. Let's talk about that in the second segment. We're going to sort of overflow with this because the answer to this question and the conversations about Tom Dundon are going to flow into one another. It's the beauty of the mailbag designed by me, the Postmaster General or something like that. Okay, I'm sorry. Join me in the second segment. We'll talk more about Cronin and Young Hinson and Joe Dumars. Yeah, all of them are going to come up, plus Tom Dundon as well. Join me in that second segment, won't ya? First, though, let's talk FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. They certainly do. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift. So a receiver gets hot, an offensive line starts mauling folks up front, a defense tightens up and starts getting stops, or there's a big momentum flip when there's a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment so you can bet live spreads and money lines, which adjust instantly. There are going to be player props that update throughout the game as guys heat up, as guys cool off, etc., and you can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL bets all season long. That's live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right. I want to tell you about something really fun here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's called the Everydayer Club. You are going to love this. Look, if you never miss an episode, if you are someone who is truly an everydayer, this is for you. It's time to make it official. You can join the Locked On Everydayer Club. You're going to get ad-free audio, access to a members-only Discord server, and more. And it's built for you, my most loyal fans. So head on over to lockedonblazers.supercast.com. That's lockedonblazers.supercast.com to sign up. It's all for just $5 a month or $50 a year, or you can check the link in the show notes to learn more. Let's talk about Joe Cronin and the Young Hinson experiment. I'd say experience is probably the correct word in that sentence, even if experiment is in my notes. So, Hinson is 20 years old and struggling in a way that is very normal for 20-year-olds. I think like the most just like straightforward way to explain this is that it's freaking December of his rookie season, right? Like to draw hard conclusions about what Hinson will be as a basketball player would be foolish as to the point of insulting. Let it go. Just say right now, he doesn't look good. I think that's a factual truth. What he'll be in the future, he's got a lot of skills. He's really big. I mean, he might end up really good. We shall see. We just don't know. This is December 9th's program. The Blazers have played 24 games. Hinson has appeared in some of those. I think the criticism of Hinson is the strangeness of the whole experience. Because the Blazers kind of projected to be, we're going to be a team that's competitive right away, and they waived DeAndre Ayton, and because they thought he was either untradeable or as reports from The Athletic suggested, is kind of like an untenable personality, just like not someone they wanted in their building for the price point. And they said like, let's get him out of here. We can do other things. We have a chance to make other moves, and et cetera, et cetera. And part of that that decision seems to suggest that they also probably thought Young Hinson was closer to being a contributor. Maybe not like an NBA starter, right? Like probably didn't value him at that level, but they thought he could play. They thought he could help and he could play. So that's why they drafted him. But I think the process here is worth unpacking when we're talking about sort of the Cronin experience. So if Joe Dumars, who's running the New Orleans Pelicans front office, is to be believed, he said this on the mic on draft night in front of the media. He said that the Pelicans called every team, picking from 9 to 13 in the draft, Blazers had 11, trying to trade up in order to get Derek Queen. The Pelicans, of course, sent a fully unprotected 2026 pick to Atlanta to move up from 23 to 13. And New Orleans, freaking 3-21, with the worst record in the league, worse than the Washington Wizards, has potentially gift wrapped a top 5 pick to the Hawks for free. Hawks can do whatever they want. The Pelicans will do their tanking for them. If that's the case, you just don't love the process on draft night. I will say the Blazers and Dumars said it, right? I watched him say it in the microphone. The Blazers on draft night, the trade they did execute to get Young Hinson is actually pretty money, right? They got an unprotected 2028 pick from the Magic. They dropped 5 spots back from 11 to 16. That deal in and of itself is worth praise, even regardless of what happens with Hinson. Like the business itself is worth praise. But the potential Pelicans deal, if the Blazers did indeed pass on that because they were worried that dropping all the way back to 23 means they didn't get their guy, it strikes me as bad process. Because what you're passing on there in some ways is, the likelihood that Brooklyn takes Hinson with one of their many, many first-round picks versus AJ DeBonsa, Cam Boozer, Caleb Wilson, Darren Peterson, like one of these really special players in the top 5 of this draft class that you don't have to lose for. That you just keep it moving and draft someone at 23 and call it good, right? I think that's my actual criticism of the Hinson pick, that based on what we know, it seems like the Blazers were so locked in on one player they didn't play the board. So that's sort of my overview of the Cronin experience. Good at trades, have not liked the contracts he's given out. I think they've been an average level draft team, obviously TBD. Like if Scoot comes back and starts balling this year, it changes quickly, but from right now, average at best. So how confident should you be? Somewhat, right? Like I think finding Denny and they have an ethos, length and defense and all these things. It's just like this team this year had such an obvious built-in weakness. It's like they don't have enough dudes who can dribble or enough dudes that can shoot. And they're a little bit light at the center spot. And those were all obvious. It was obvious heading into the season. And how competitive are you going to be with like obvious built-in weaknesses? And so that brings us to this next question that came from a combination of 2 listeners, from Scott and Riley. These questions, I'm kind of mashing them together as one, but Scott asks, this is listener Scott R, asks, do you think Tom Dundon will have influence on the direction of the team this season, like now, and whether the offseason goals set by the current regime could quickly be thrown in the trash? And if you were Tom Dundon, how would you judge Cronin's performance thus far when making that decision about the current regime? I think this plays into what we just talked about. It's like, I think you could have decent confidence. Like, I don't think Joe Cronin has been objectively bad. I just don't think, like, if you haven't nailed a draft pick and you're kind of dicey on some of the contract stuff, it's like he's been good at some stuff, some good, some bad, right? Like, and so that means, if he gets to continue to even it out, some good, some bad, I would say the best move he's made, trading for Denny Avdia, probably outweighs the worst moves he's made, which is probably like giving Jeremy Grant $1 kajillion, I think. So like it's in general, I think, it's kind of, some of it isn't in how much you value the draft picks that Cronin has made. Shaedon Sharpe, Donovan Clingan, Scoot Henderson, growing into being like a sustainable core moving forward. And I would say the early season returns on Shaedon Sharpe, he looks, he's moved him to a 6-man role. He looks less like someone seizing the reins as a starting shooting guard and someone kind of like leaning into a place where he is a scorer, off the bench scorer type. Obviously he has skills to evolve beyond that, but yeah, like that's what he looks like right now today. So Scott offered a really good sort of Cronin CV. And I mean this as a CV as like your your CV you would hand to your future boss, Tom Dundon, as someone who is going to make decisions about what your future might be. So like Cronin's CV would be, Denny is an all-star caliber player, and he's probably getting underpaid by at least 20, if not $40 million. Like, he's got the best contract in the league, and he's an all-star level player. Shaden Sharp is a 20-point per game scorer who has talent to be more than that, who's signed at a bargain price if he hits that talent. And if he doesn't hit that talent, he signed at a relatively reasonable price, assuming like general growth over the next 4 seasons. Tamani Kamara, an all-defense player who can guard 1 through 4, who can make open threes in theory, and it's under contract for a long time. Donovan Clingan, a draft pick, a youngster who could someday be an all-defense team member, and projects to be, at least at his peak, a guy who averages an easy double-double while being a good defender. The Scoot Anderson thing is kind of hypothetical. The other sell would be like the team has real depth, even outside those youngsters with Grant and Drew Holiday and the eventual return of Damian Lillard. You've got like players. You're looking at 9 playable NBA players for sure next year, and if other people pop, it's more than that. And the deep bench has some interesting parts that fit the ethos with Blake Wesley and Chris Murray. And then the final sell would be from Scott's fake Cronin CV is like, and this is a playoff team. So we no longer have the Bulls pick hanging around our necks. And now it's young guys and salary and draft picks, and we can make that move for the superstar, right? So I think that would be the CV. My question is like, does Dundon believe that? Does Dundon want that? What is Dundon's goal? And so the question, to answer this question, how much influence will Dundon have? The word from the front office when I queried them about this was like, nothing's going to change. Move forward. This is like, how much is this is? They were asked a couple different times, I believe, also at a media day in sort of a variety of questions, but so I may be conflating the answers to what I asked versus what someone else asked. But regardless, what Cronin said at media day was like, business as usual. We're just going to operate. We will move forward and operate like we normally do. I don't think I believe that, because if Cronin wants to make a serious shakeup, obviously he has to call Tom Dundon and figure out what the deal is. The even minor ones, though, would have to run by Dundon. Dundon has reportedly sold a not insignificant portion of his Hurricanes ownership, as the NHL team he owns in Raleigh, in order to start facilitating the sale to buy the Trailblazers, which is reportedly, I believe, first reported by The Athletic, set to close in March. So, like, Dundon, we're 3 months away, 3.5 months away from Dundon being in full control. Everything that they do between here and the trade deadline runs through Tom Dundon. And it wouldn't be unprecedented for a ownership group that is not fully taking control but has agreed to buy the team, see the ownership transition in Minnesota as evidence, to be able to like have real influence on moves that happen before they are fully in control. Reportedly the Rudy Gobert deal that turned out to be pretty darn good for the T-Wolves, who've made back-to-back Western Conference Finals, heavily influenced by the incoming owners before they had officially purchased the team from Glenn Taylor. So everything. And I guess what the question is does Dundon look at this group and agree with Joe Cronin's view that they're making steady progress, they're getting better, they're going to be a competitive team this year, and if one of the young guys pops, they're going to be even better, and like that this is the steady build to something sustainable? Or does he look at this and think like, this is fine, but it doesn't work, it's all gone? I think regardless, Dundon may install his own front office, right? Because that's a typical thing that happens with new ownership groups coming in across all sports. But I think sort of the unknowable factor here is, does Dundon's view the immediate future in a similar vein as the Blazers brass does? Let's take a quick break, and then we'll answer another question. This one about the Rip City remix. Join me in that third segment, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you about Mint Mobile. There's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. Right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their unlimited plans are 50% off. That means you can lock in 3, 6, or even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge treatment. And what makes this even better is how simple Mint Mobile makes the switch. No contracts, no nonsense, just real savings and real quality service. Switching to Mint lets you keep your same coverage for a lower price. Setup takes only a few minutes. You can bring your own phone and your existing number without any issues. The service is fast and super reliable, even on the go. It feels good knowing that you're not overpaying just to stay connected. Turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Limited time offer. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required. That's $15 a month. Equivalent taxes and fees. Initial plan term only. Greater than 35 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. Let's finish up this mailbag. If you want to get involved in a future mailbag, the way to email me is lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. That's the way to get in touch with me. I think in the future, once we really get popping here, another great way to get in touch with me will be on the private Discord server, the members-only Discord server for the Locked On Everydayer Club. I'll probably start snagging some questions in there. So go ahead and sign up for that one. Go ahead and sign up for that one at lockedonblazers.supercast.com, and we can get to chatting in the Discord server. This question came from me in the stands at the Child Center mid-game from listener Erica. Listener Erica sends the following. I am at the Rip City Remix game, and Blake Hinson has already made 8 3-pointers. Blake would finish 9. Based on when this email was sent, Blake would finish with 9 3-pointers in this game. I'm at the Rip City Remix game, and Blake Hinson has already made 8 3-pointers. I know there's a big difference between the G League and the NBA, but why isn't Hinson on the Trailblazers? Interesting question, especially on a team that lacks shooting and could use some size. So who is Blake Hinson? Blake Hinson is a G League player. He plays for the Rip City Remix. Now, the Rip City Remix is importantly a G League affiliate of the Trailblazers, but it's not a true minor league system. It's not a one-way street. You can't just call up players. What you have to do is you have to have a contract slot open for them. What the Blazers would have to do to acquire Hinson is waive one of their two-way guys because their roster's full at 15 players, and if they cut someone and sign a player, they will be a tax-paying team, and there's just no way that they go into the tax for friggin' Blake Hinson. So what we're talking about is adding Blake Hinson on a two-way contract. He is certainly two-way eligible. He's briefly signed to a two-way contract with the Lakers, but has yet to make his NBA debut. Blake Hinson is also 6'6" with a ratchet. Dude can shoot it. He keeps that thing on him. He is, Hinson's a little bit older. He's 26. He started college in 2018, but then he missed 2 years in the middle of his college career with I can't find any information on it, but a medical condition that, as far as I can tell, was never publicly disclosed what it went through. The only information I have is it wasn't COVID related. Okay. There's a lot of, I know it's sort of the year that it happened. It certainly was a lot of things were COVID related, but it's he missed 2 years for medical conditions. So then he started college at Ole Miss, transferred to Iowa State, never played for 2 years at Iowa State, transferred to Pitt, and he was balling at Pitt. He was an all-ACC performer a couple times. His final year in college, he led the ACC in 3-point shooting, both in makes and percentage. He for his college career, 37.8% 3-point shooter. That was really darn good. But in his senior season at Pitt, 42% from 3 on 8 attempts per game. Dude can shoot it. Not a great athlete. Probably not he's 6'6". He's like a true NBA-sized wing. 6'6", 6'5" and 3/4 at the 2024 Combine without shoes. 6'10" wingspan. He's about to turn 26, a little bit older, but dude can shoot it. This year for the Rip City Remix, in not that many games, in 9 games, 32 minutes a night, he's shooting 44.9% from 3 on 11 attempts per game. Dude can absolutely gun. So I think the what you're asking here, is what Eric is asking here, and what maybe you are asking here too, is why is he not on the Trailblazers? I think a couple things. One, they'd have to sign him to a two-way contract, so they would have to waive a two-way player. City Sissoko starts. He ain't get waived. He's this freaking Blazers starter right now. And I honestly think, throw it in the good basket for Cronin. Sissoko as a two-way contract is a very, very good outcome. He's a contributor. I don't know if he's a high-level contributor, but he is clearly an NBA player. Albeit probably a back half of the rotation, 14th man type, but will play in the league. Confident of it. Size, defense, passing, ball handling a little bit. Yeah. So it's not going to be Sissoko. It's probably not going to be Caleb Love just because they need point guards. Like they just need, and he's not a point guard, but he's more point guard than a lot of other players on the roster. There's not. So we're talking about Javonte Cook. And if you're asking me, like the Blazers, they don't play today. It's on Tuesday. They don't play Wednesday. If you're asking me Thursday in New Orleans, I had to do the math real quick about what day it was. Thursday in New Orleans, could Blake Hinson be more helpful than Javonte Cook in any random, say, 4-minute stretch? Absolutely. Absolutely he could. I think there's no doubt about it because Hinson he's older. He's bigger. I think the little bit we've seen of Cook, he's just like not seasoned enough. He's a D2 guy who's also making his NBA debut this year. But it depends on how you view two-way spots. I think there's two ways to think of them. One is depth or like positional depth. Okay, we don't have enough point guards. We don't have enough centers. We don't have enough wings, right? Let's add a player at those positions to be depth in case things go wrong. Or you view it as like upside swings. So it's like, we don't know what Javonte Cook can be, but we really think he can be something special. Sign him to this contract, get him in the G League, let him play. If he pops, then we've got this player, and it's like, it's on the cheap, doesn't count against the salary cap, etc. So why Hinson wouldn't be that guy is because he's 26. He probably is what he is. He's a dude who can really shoot it and probably doesn't do a ton else. Not much of a defender, not much of a playmaker off the dribble, kind of makes some bad decisions if you have to let him dribble a bunch. But like what the Blazers could desperately need right now is like someone to be able to get a kick out from Deni Avdija and knock down an open shot. And it seems to me that Hinson could absolutely be that guy. So the reason that he's not on the Trailblazers, Erica, to ask your questions, is because there's more machinations than just like the sort of simple, like call him up type of thing. They'd have to waive someone. And if you waive Javonte Cook so early into his career, you're kind of giving up on him. And it's like, they signed him for a reason and they believe in him. And so it's like, are they willing to kind of punt on that experiment to say this guy will help and we might only have him, need him for 3 weeks at the most or something like that. And then we'll have, we're talking like 7 appearances from Blake Hinson or something, as opposed to whatever they view the long-term future of Cook to be. So yeah, like the reason he's not is because of just like the steps they would have to go through and probably what they value as an organization. But if you're asking like, would Hinson be better than Cook if you needed 4 useful NBA minutes? I would say probably undeniably, just because of the Blazers' dearth of shooters. Like they just have so many guys who cannot shoot right now on the roster. Having like a true knockdown shooter, and last year with Santa Cruz, Blake Hinson led the G League in 3-point attempts, 3-point makes, and shot 36.4% from 3 on 8.8 attempts per game in 50 games with the Santa Cruz Warriors. He hasn't been a good free throw shooter pretty much ever in the G League, but he's bombed away from 3. And this year he is bombing away from 3, and they're going in even more often. If you're looking for like a close at home person who kind of answers the Blazers like specific offensive warts, yeah, I think it's Hinson. But if you're like confused as to why it hasn't already happened, it's because teams have different priorities and they're sort of analyzing stuff on less than like how helpful can this dude be in December versus how like what 2026 and beyond kind of looks like. Albeit if you want to be good, you kind of need to win the games in December and not worry so much about what 2026 and 2027 look like for a 2-way contract. That's going to do it for today's program. Go join the Everydayer Club, lockedonblazers.supercasts.com. Supercast. Lockedonblazers.supercast.com. I think it'll be a fun, if you're someone who listens to every single episode of this in the audio, I think it's an incredible deal for you. Then come back for tomorrow's show. Travis Demers joins the program, Blazers radio play-by-play announcer. You're not going to want to miss that one. That's why we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.